What's up, witches? It's me, Luna, here with an unboxing for you on a beautiful, beautiful day. If you are new to my channel, I hope you like what you see, and if you do, please consider subscribing. If you already support my channel, hit that like button so more people can join us, okay? Today I am looking at Carolyn Myss Archetype cards. This is a Hay House deck, as you can see, so we've got a fairly chunky box, as Hay House does. Carolyn Myss, and she does pronounce her name Mace. Archetype cards, an 80-card deck with instruction booklet. Archetype cards, Hay House imprint, same on all sides. Archetypes are ancient universal patterns of behavior that are embedded in what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious. Carolyn Myss has created a unique set of 74 archetype cards, each individually designed to provide the basic light and shadow attributes of a different archetype. The deck also contains 6 blank cards on which you can create your own archetypes. Awesome! Included is an instruction booklet explaining how to use the cards to help determine which archetypes are most active in your psyche and how they can lead you to achieve greater insights into your life. The deck is suitable to be used by itself in conjunction with Carolyn's book Sacred Contracts or with any of her workshops and seminars, and the copyright on this is 2003. Myss.com, M-Y-S-S, and several images there. $24.99 US. It does have the little thumb things, but the box is glossy, so it wants to stick to itself. Still, I always appreciate, good sturdy boxes. They missed an opportunity, plain cardboard inside. Here's the book. Not a bad little book. This looks as though each card gets a page. All right, let me see if we've got any kind of intro that we want to look at. Guidebook to accompany the archetype cards. The 4 archetypes of survival. Ooh, the child, wounded child, abandoned orphan child, magical innocent child, nature child, eternal child, dependent child. That's number 1. Number 2 is the victim. Number 3 is the saboteur. And number 4 is the prostitute. Wow. Okay, let's look at the cards, because that's going to be a long slog. All right, let me zoom you in. I think that should do it. Are they cut evenly? Yes, they are. They're cut evenly. Definitely, it's a chunky deck, 80 cards. Cardstock is pretty pliable, although I think it's going to be a stiff shuffle. So here are the backs. And we just have, so they are directional. You can tell if they are upside down or not by looking at the backs. And we just have kind of a floral motif. If there is a recognizable something there, I don't recognize it. All right. I'm thinking these are in alphabetical order. So we have addict is number 1. Then we have light attribute and shadow attributes. So don't know that they're meant to be, reversed. It says light attribute helps you recognize and confront addictive behavior. Shadow attributes compromises integrity and honesty, allows an addictive person to have authority over your inner spirit. And you see this person here pushing against, there's this huge wave coming up over his head, and he's pushing against that. I don't know what these 2 little things that kind of look like neckties are there. Advocate, yes, we have alphabeticity. I just made a word. Light attribute, advocate. Inspires you to put compassion into action, embracing negative causes or committing to causes for personal gain. Okay. Can totally see that. Alchemist. Transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. And the shadow attribute, misuse of the power and knowledge that comes through spiritual practice. That's the alchemist. So we see somebody blending things. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, as I tend to these days, even more. Okay, there, that's a little better. Now you can really see the image. I don't think I'm going to read all of these because there's 74 of them. There's angel. Okay, just so we get the idea of what the light and the shadow are about. The light attribute of angel is helping those in need with no expectation of return. The shadow is acting innocent or angelic to mislead others, falsely claiming to be in touch with angelic guidance. Artist. It seems that the shadow attributes are about using the light side to harm. Athlete. Dedication to transcending physical limits, including handicaps. Misuse of athletic ability for selfish ends. Yeah, so, you know, being selfish with these things. Avenger. Desire to balance the scales of justice, righteousness on behalf of society or oneself. Shadow is resorting to violence in the name of a cause. Beggar. Confronts empowerment, the level of physical survival, awakens the spiritual authority of humility, compassion, and self-esteem. Shadow is dependence on others to the exclusion of effort. Wow. Bully. The light highlights your tendency to intimidate others, helps you confront the inner fears that bully you. Highlights your tendency to intimidate others. Okay. Conceals deep fears behind verbal or physical abuse. Here's the divine child. So child. So I imagine we're going to have all the child ones. Yes, divine child, innocence, purity, and redemption suggests a special connection with the divine. Shadow is the inability to defend oneself against negative forces. Eternal child, determination to remain young in body, mind, and spirit, ability to see things with fresh eyes, inability to grow up and be responsible. Okay. Magical child, seeing the potential in everything. Shadow is pessimism, depression, and disbelief in miracles. Nature child, friendships with animals, abusing animals. Orphan child. Ooh, ouch. Independence based on learning to go it alone, conquering fear of surviving. Shadow, feelings of abandonment that stifle maturation, seeking inappropriate surrogate families. Wounded child. Blames all dysfunctional relationships on childhood wounds, resists moving on through forgiveness. Wow. Companion. Loyalty, tenacity, unselfishness, or betrayal by misusing confidences, loss of personal identity. Damsel. Okay. Destroyer. We've got this big volcano. Detective. Great powers of observation. Voyeurism. Dilettante. Delights in the arts without having to be a professional or pretension to much deeper knowledge than you actually possess. Don Juan spotlights your positive, seductive qualities. The damsel talked about understanding the nature of healthy romance, inspires you to rely on yourself. And the shadow is waiting for somebody to come and rescue you. And the shadow here using the power of romantic attraction for private agendas. Oh, yes. Engineer. Here's the exorcist. Look at this. Fear of facing your own demons is the shadow. Light is freeing yourself and others of destructive impulses. Here's the father. Talent for creating and supporting life, positive guiding light within a tribal unit. Dictatorial control, abuse of authority. Femme fatale, erotic energy of the feminine. inappropriate use of sensuality, and more. Here's the Fool. Wow. The Gambler. God. Benevolence and compassion, recognizing the eternal force within yourself and others. Despotism and cruelty, using power to control people. Then we have Goddess, the feminine expressed through wisdom, nature, life force, and sensuality. The shadow is exploitation of the female nature and form. Gossip awakens consideration for the feelings of others, honoring trust. Shadow thrives on the power of passing on private or secret information, betraying confidences. Guide. We have an Owl. Healer. Light attributes. Passion to serve others by repairing the body, mind, and spirit. Ability to help transform pain into healing. Taking advantage of those who need help. Failing to care for oneself. I have unfortunately witnessed actually someone who was a counselor that was seriously toxic and codependent and manipulative, and it's a scary thing. Hedonist. Hermit. Sorry. So the difference between solitude and isolation there. Hero, heroine. The Judge. The images really are beautiful, and I want to pause for a moment and see who did the artwork. Did Carolyn Mace do the artwork? If she did, I'm very much impressed. Editorial design, Amy Rose Gregoriou. Let's see if we have anything in the back about the artist, about the author. Carolyn Mace is a pioneer in the field of energy medicine and human consciousness. Since 1982, she's worked as a medical intuitive, one who sees illnesses in a patient's body by intuitive means. She specializes in assisting people in understanding the emotional, psychological, and physical reasons why their bodies have developed an illness. But it doesn't say anything about the images. Let's see. But we do have this attribution here, designed by Amy Rose Gregoriou. So is that just like designing the way the deck looks, or is that actual illustration? I don't know. I might have to dig deeper for that, but I am liking the images. They're collage-y looking. It's like the artist has taken, and cut out different patterns and things to fill in. Okay, King, Knight, Liberator, Lover, Martyr, learning the transcendent nature of service to oneself or a cause, and the shadow is addiction to self-pity. Absolutely. Mediator, gift for negotiating fairness and strategy, respect for both sides of an argument, or negotiating with an ulterior motive. There you go. So most of the shadows, as I said, are about using the light attributes for a selfish purpose or in order to manipulate or harm. Mentor, the shadow's inability to allow the student to move on to the role of master. Messiah, serving humanity with humility, exaggerated belief that you're the only means through which a cause can succeed, and also a red flag for a narcissist. Midas or miser, hoarding things. Monk, nun, selfless devotion and single-minded dedication to spirit, or negative judgment of the physical world and excess piety. The mother, nurturance, patience, unconditional love, joy, and giving birth to life. Shadow attributes are smothering or abandoning children, instilling guilt in children for becoming independent. So we do have racial diversity in the deck. I want to say that. Mystic, revels in intimate union with the divine, or delusional rapport with the divine. Networker, pioneer, poet. So we have expresses soul insights in symbolic language or turns a lyric gift to negative or destructive effect. The priest facilitates spiritual commitments, serves as a channel of spiritual energy, or violates the trust of your spiritual community, seduced by your own spiritual role. Ooh, yeah. I would say that the archetype of priest has taken on some new layers in the last couple of decades. Prince. Prostitute, let's look at this. Accentuates the challenge of surviving without negotiating the power of your spirit. And shadow places material considerations and security above self-empowerment. So I want to remove from this, the judgment that we place on sex workers and really spotlight it as to your detriment. Accepting money or material things in compromise of who you are. Queen radiates the regal feminine, uses her benevolent authority to protect others, or becomes arrogant when authority is challenged, controlling and demanding. Ooh. Rebel. The rescuer. Ooh. So provides strength and support to others in crisis, acts out of love with no expectation of reward, or we have assumes that the rescued will reciprocate, keeps the rescued one needy. In other words, strings attached. Saboteur. What's the light attribute of a saboteur? Highlights your fear of self-empowerment and changes it would bring to your life. Okay, so fear of empowerment, and the shadow induces self-destructive behavior or the desire to undermine others. Samaritan. So a lot of these have a, like healer and rescuer and stuff have a similar vibe. Refines your capacity to help those you would prefer to ignore. Okay, so there's the nuance. This is about support for someone in crisis. This is about being willing to see and to help those that you'd prefer to just ignore. The shadow is exacting appreciation and recognition for the help you offer. Scribe. Preserving knowledge and information or altering facts or plagiarizing others' work. Wow. Seeker. Inability to commit to a path once found. The servant. The shapeshifter. That's a beautiful image. Okay. So, skill at navigating through different levels of consciousness, ability to see the potential in everything, or projecting any image that serves your personal agenda in the moment. Yeah. Slave. Surrendering your power of choice to the divine with complete trust, or giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choices. Ooh, that's good. Storyteller. Student. Teacher. Thief. Trickster. Let's look at this. Transcending convention, stuffiness, and predictable behavior. Or manipulating others through duplicity. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like this, being unpredictable and kind of a wild card and stuff like that can be a way to grab control of a situation. Vampire makes you aware that someone or something is draining your life force. This is depleting others. So this is being a victim of the vampire. This is being the vampire. Here's victim. Prevents you from letting yourself be victimized or playing the victim here. Virgin, maintaining symbolic purity of heart and spirit or fear of intimate union. Visionary. So they are looking at this as definitely like sexual. Visionary. Capacity to envision what is not yet conceivable to others. Willingness to proclaim a vision without regard for personal gain. Shadow is selling insights to the highest bidder, compromising your vision to make it more acceptable. Then we have warrior. Then we have the blanks. So we've got 6 blank cards there. I'm going to leave those to the side as I zoom you back out and simultaneously light my charcoal. Wow. Do I have skills or what? Boy, I really had you zoomed in. Okay. A little too far. There we go. So let's give this a bit of a, it's interesting. It's definitely different from any other deck that I have. So I'm down with that. I'm going to give it a cleanse because I haven't done this yet. Give it a cleanse with some sage. I have my window open and I hear outside noises. It's such a delight because I'm shooting this on the first full day of spring. All right, let's make sure these get it too. All right. And salt and water. So this is a basic elemental cleanse. I use fire and air, salt and water, and we clean the box too. Why not? All right, now, guides and guardians, allies and ancestors, thank you for being with me every minute of every day. I am always aware of your presence and always, always, always grateful. And I offer you fresh water, and I offer you the fire of Azrael, that I ask for your assistance in bringing the gift of divination to this wonderful tool, in gratitude to the author and the artist and the publisher and all the people that worked to bring this to my hand. I give gratitude. All right, let's go back and take a look at the book some more. I'm not going to read a whole bunch, but let's see. I want to read about these 4 archetypes. Of the 12 archetypes in our personal support teams, we all share the child, victim, prostitute, and saboteur. Each of these is deeply involved in our most pressing challenges related to survival. They represent different issues, fears and vulnerabilities that you need to confront and overcome as part of your sacred contract. In doing so, you come to see these 4 archetypes as your most trusted allies, which can represent spiritual as well as material strengths. They can become your guardians and will preserve your integrity, refusing to let you negotiate it away in the name of survival. Keep in mind that, like all archetypes, these energies are essentially neutral, despite the negative connotations of their names. Although the child itself sounds positive, variants such as wounded, dependent, or orphan have a clearly negative tonality. Although the outline of your sacred contract may have been agreed on before your birth, the way in which you respond to the challenges it presents and how you choose to interact with the people with whom you have individual contracts is up to you. If your choices are made unconsciously and you act defensively and fearfully, your fears will have more authority than your positive qualities in making your most significant choices. The more conscious you can remain about the archetype patterns influencing your behavior, the more likely it is that your choices and lessons will serve your spiritual empowerment. Before going further with our discussion of archetypes in general, let's take a brief look at each of the 4 survival archetypes and try to understand how you can learn from them. Although we each have these 4 present in our support team, there are several variations of the child from which to choose. You may feel that more than one variant is active in you, yet only one is dominant. Well, I'm certainly not going to read through each of these, but I can tell you, just looking at the wounded child, abandoned child, magical child, nature child, eternal child, dependent child, I can tell you that different ones have been to the forefront at different times in my life. Wow. So this will bear a lot of reading here. The victim, the saboteur, and the prostitute. All right, the prostitute archetype engages lessons in the sale or negotiation of one's integrity or spirit due to fears of physical survival or for financial gain. We prostitute ourselves when we sell our bodies or minds for money, or when we compromise our morals and ethics for financial gain. There is certainly a lot of change happening in the attitude towards sex workers, the oldest profession. Not every sex worker is in the profession because they were trafficked or because they were, out on the street and starving. This is an actual profession. Back in the days of the goddess temples, it was a sacrament. We had sacred harlots that lived at the temples, and their job was to offer sex to men that couldn't get it anywhere else, and probably women too. So it was seen as a sacrament, and people dedicated their lives to that. And we are now going through, like I said, this revolution where we're understanding that sex work is legitimate work and removing the judgment. Okay. So determining your archetypes. You'll need to select 8 more to fill out your intimate support group of 12 archetypes. So there's a process to go through. You go through this list, and you're supposed to write down the 12 that really resonate most strongly with you. Some of the archetypes in the list will jump out at you as if to say, you know me, I've been part of your life ever since you can remember. Yeah. That may be aligned with your occupation, for example, the politician, craftsperson, athlete, teacher, scholar, or judge, or they could be important characteristics that define your nature apart from your work, such as the monk or nun, the poet, lover, or rebel. Okay, I don't remember seeing Gaia. She's got Gaia on this. Okay, so there's a list of archetypes here that is different than the list of cards. Let's see. Note, some of the archetypes in this list don't appear as individual cards in the deck. They're closely related to an archetype that does appear on a card, so they appear in parentheses in the concise summary of archetypes listed later in this booklet. Okay, self-examination. So that's the, writing down 12. So, and then she takes you through a list of questions to ask about each of these things. How long has this archetypal pattern been a part of my life? What role has this archetype played for me? Which prominent people have interacted with this aspect of my nature supported by this archetype? What relationship might it have to my personal unfinished business? What myths, fairy tales, or spiritual stories that have meaning for me do I associate with this archetype? Has this archetype appeared in my dreams? What impact has it had on my spirituality? What guidance might this archetype have to offer me in the present moment? So some very deep questions to do some big, deep digging. I like that. Okay. So, I want to go back to the very beginning here. So she's talking about archetypes in general. To begin working with this deck, choose any card and study the light and shadow attributes listed on the card and in this booklet. Observe whether you feel a close connection to that archetype and how it manifests in the energy surrounding you during the day. For more detailed suggestions on how to use this deck, see page 28. All right, there we go. Different archetypal patterns may manifest within and around you in different situations, such as when you're at home or at work, alone or with family, or in a romantic relationship or a friendship. Pick 1 or 2 cards and study their light and shadow attributes. Then observe in which situations those archetypes show up in you and others throughout the day. Keep a journal listing the archetypes that are most active in you, as well as those with which you feel little or no connection. This will help you narrow down the list to the 12 most significant archetypes in your personal support group. Once you've decided on your 12 primary archetypes, including the child, victim, saboteur, and prostitute, choose one with the intention of observing its characteristics in your own behavior. Become mindful of how those characteristics express themselves in your personality and how you work with their power. Increasing awareness is the result of conscious observation of your fears and strengths, which are the essential influences in all your decisions. These cards can also be used in conjunction with Sacred Contracts, Carolyn Mace's Journal of Inner Dialogue, and most Carolyn Mace workshops. And then we just go to the cards. So let's look at, we get a black and white image of the card. Let's just look at the addict here. Conspicuous consumer, glutton, workaholic. See also gambler. So we get other keywords for addict. And down here it says not limited to drugs, alcohol, food, and sex. Helps you recognize when external force has more authority over your willpower than your inner spirit does. Perseverance in breaking its hold empowers your psyche. Shadow addict represents the absence of self-control and internal balance and compromises your integrity and honesty. And at the bottom, so these are all bullet points that I just read. And then at the bottom we have a paragraph. Look for a lifelong pattern of trying to overcome the tendency to need a substance or person so intensely that you compromise relationships, finances, integrity, character, or emotional and psychological well-being. Okay. So like the advocate, the paragraph at the bottom says, ask yourself how much of your life is dedicated to social causes and a willingness to take action. So this is not meant as a deck to read with. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do a reading. Let's test drive it, because you know how I feel. You can read anything, right? If you're a reader, you do read everything and anything. Let's shuffle them. Kinda. They're a little chunky in the beginning. Let's do, and I already have a question coming into my mind, because it seems like, yeah, I can't do them that way at all. Let's split the deck and go this way, just to get them mixed up a little bit. And then I think I'm going to ask about which archetypes we are really dealing with right now. Okay, I've got a reading coming up in my mind, and I will say that the book starts with the cards, and then we go to the back, and the very last page is the warrior, and then that's it. So there is no suggestion for, you know, here's a spread or anything like that. So this deck is not a reading deck, or at least not intended to be. Intended to be used with Carolyn Mace's spiritual and healing work. They don't slide against each other well. You see this? They don't. They're sticky, they're shiny and kind of sticky. So, whatever. I'm going to shuffle them a little bit. I'm going to put my question in, and then I will cut and pull. And I'm seeing like 3 pairs. I would like to know, please, and let's just do these 1 pair at a time to see how it goes, because I'm not keen to work real hard, you know, to have to like wrestle a reading out of a deck that isn't made for reading, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, there we go. So what I wanted was, which archetypes are we being confronted with now, which means I'm going to be looking at shadow attributes, and then going to which archetypes can we use to deal with these. So the first one I have is servant. We see someone in a typical maid's uniform. This person is dark-skinned, so we are really going with a stereotype there. Racial stereotype. Light attribute, delight in serving others with a free and loving heart. The shadow attribute is using the lack of money as an excuse not to move forward with life. All right. And you know what? I didn't get to put my question in fully before that one came out, so I'm going to back up and do this again. All right. Mentor. So the shadow attribute of this says inability to allow the student to move on to the role of master, imparting false instruction. So what archetypes are we maybe confronting? Right now, let's just do this and see where we go. And I mean, if all else fails, you know what my standard question is for unboxings, which is how do we move from merely surviving into thriving in the circumstances in which we find ourselves. So we have mentor, miser, and king. Passing on wisdom, refining a student's character, entrepreneurial or creative ability to turn anything to gold, delight in sharing life's riches, and enlightened, benevolent leadership benefiting those in your charge. So if I just look at these three in terms of the light, we have elders, mentor, kind of assumes someone older, someone that has more education experience, someone that is able to pass something along to those younger. So being willing, if we go with the, how do we move from thriving into surviving into thriving, we pass on, ooh, this is great, we pass on what we know. So if we're looking at survival issues or we're in survival mode and thinking, how am I going to get by? And, we have those fears of not surviving coming up. What do we really fear when we think of not surviving? And, if part of it is I just fear not being here anymore or people forgetting me, well, a great antidote to that is to pass along what you know, so a part of you continues. Then we have the miser, the light. Miser is a negative term. The light attributes of this archetype are the ability to take whatever's given to you and turn it into gold. And a delight, and this one says delight in sharing life's riches, but the miser is, holding things, keeping things, hoarding things. So we could say that, the positive here is just to delight in the riches and the material things that life has to offer and wanting to, have those things in your life. And for me, I think immediately of my collection, hoarding my collection. I get very dragony over my collection. Then the king. So, if we're looking at survival stuff, this can bring the miser up. This can bring up the shadow side, hoarding money and emotions, obsessive fear of losing your wealth. So, of course, the light side of that is to share, is to take delight in the material things by sharing them with people. Take delight in someone else's delight in those things. In the Buddhist sevenfold prayer, one of the things we do is to rejoice, to purify jealousy. So when we are envious of people, somebody has a good turn and it's like, why are they getting that? I wish I had that. But if you take joy in their success, in their attainment, whatever it is, you have the joy of it too. rather than jealousy that's eating you up. And then we've got the King, enlightened benevolent leadership benefiting those in your charge. The Shadow is excessive feelings of entitlement, rulership without restraint. Okay. So let's look at, okay. Let's look at the shadows, like I said I was going to do. Inability to allow the student to move on to the role of master, imparting false instruction. This is telling me about the shadow side of the internet, which is false information, the disseminating of false information, the hoarding of wealth, excessive entitlement, and rulership without restraint. So we are dealing with these things kind of as a collective story here. False information, the hoarding of money. Anybody coming to mind with these things here? And then the feelings of entitlement. So these are shadows that we're grappling with right now. People that are attempting to wrest control from the majority through false information, through the hoarding of resources, cutting people out of resources, and dictatorships. Now let's see how we answer these things. All right, so here we have union with the divine. Okay, mystic, detective, damsel. Union with the divine, powers of observation and intuition, desire to seek out the truth. That one's answering that one. Understanding the nature of healthy romance, inspires you to rely on yourself, is the light side of the damsel. So what do? We go to a much higher and a higher perspective and a bigger picture in union with the divine, rather than getting down in the muck with, the false information that's being put out, and down in the muck with just the focus on material goods. We step into union with spirit. And then we use our powers of observation and our intuition to seek out the truth, to really look at. So when we're going at things on a mundane level, we do it as far as being an investigator. Is this true? And before you go ahead and just share something that, hits your emotional hot buttons, ask yourself, can I find this verified somewhere? This is one thing we've learned how to do over the last 6 years or so with Facebook, is check our sources. And if somebody says, I heard blah, 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 Google it. It's so easy. Did this happen? And if you can't find a resource for it, then do not pass along that information. That's what the detective is telling us about here. And then damsel says we have to rely on ourselves and come out of this. Damsel is kind of a facet of victimhood. Oh, woe is me, waiting for someone to rescue me. So it says that we need to come out of this idea that it's up to somebody else to care for me. The truth of it is, it's our job to care for each other, right? And when we're talking about governments, rather than expecting a government to be the be-all and end-all, what the government is there to do in a democracy, to my mind, is it is there to make sure that things are fair for everyone across the board, that all people are created equal, and we have equal capacity for Buddha mind, and we have equal right to the basics of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? We have the basic rights to be free, to have food and water, to have shelter, to have the basic means of survival. And damsel here shifts us from that damsel in distress waiting for a knight to provide for you, and into, how do I take care of myself? How do I get myself out of this predicament? So what you do then to cope with these archetypes, that are at work is bring these archetypes to the forefront. Very interesting. I mean, it's not, you're not going to get a deep, or are you? I think this is a deck that just, if you sit and play with it, you're going to find out what it can do. It certainly has spoken to archetypes that we're dealing with right now at a toxic level, at a shadow level, and shows us where we need to go. We need to all be more vigilant and questioning as far as what's true and what's not true, so that we can make up our own minds. We need to be ready to rescue ourselves from whatever situations life tosses at us. But we also need to be in union with the divine and taking that broad and high perspective, so that we can recognize maybe when some people are not able to succeed at helping themselves. You know, when the resources aren't there, when people are actively being cut off from accessing resources, it can be very difficult. And this is where, in union with the divine, we do understand that we are our fellow beings' keepers, and we take on that, and that we can be prepared to help as we help ourselves, with a very discriminating eye towards what's true and what's not. Yeah, time for the misers and the kings to go. You know, we had a president who thought he was a king, and we're finding out, you know, that didn't work. Hopefully it doesn't ever work again. So, all right, well, interesting, very interesting deck. Is it one that I'm going to be reaching for to do readings? No, it's definitely not. But I'm very glad to have it in my collection, because I do have a lot of respect for Caroline Myss. She's done an incredible work. And, you know, as a medical intuitive and just as a wonderful spiritual person. So I'm grateful for it. And the deck, the deck, God, you guys, I can't think straight. I had a little bit of vertigo today, and it's scrambling my brain. Well, I hope at least you got a little bit of a diversion from your daily pursuits in this unboxing today. If you have some comments, or you have this deck, or you use it in a particular way, comment down below. I will be here on Wednesday evening for a live stream in doing readings for the collective, and until I see you then. Oh, by the way, there's a gift list below, a wish list. God damn, I can't speak. An Amazon wish list, and if you would like me to read for you on one of my unboxing videos, please buy me a deck. Stick a question in there in your gift note, or, you know, message me with a question, and I will address a specific question for you. If not, I will just do a general reading for you with the deck. Please add to my collection. Please feed my addiction. I'll see you guys later. Till then, this is the Zen Witch. Blessed be.